And we're rolling. Just got juice and coffee today. It would be a beer, but I'm going to the gym and I got youth practice after this, so might have to have a beer afterwards. Czech Republic might turn me into an alcoholic. But let's get started. Let's get into it. Yo. Welcome to episode number 22 of the Living for a Living podcast.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
It's hot. Coffee's too hot. Oh, almost bumped the table off. How we doing? How's it going? Man, this podcast is really kind of starting to turn into a little bit of a real expression piece for me, as been here now about a month or so. Yeah, a little bit less than a month here, and I like it here, but I will admit that it is a little bit lonely. You know, I don't mind spending time by myself at all. I normally like that quite a bit. I like being in my own thoughts, all those kind of things. But then I also like to be able to go out and connect with people. And just because of, you know, where I'm at, the overall, the English isn't super great here when I go out to a bar or a restaurant, or, I mean, a restaurant. I'm not really going to bars too often. And, you know, I'm the small talk, American small talk king, you know, fucking, hey, how's it going? How are you doing today? You know, talk about the weather a little bit, just kind of, you know, that get a smile here or there. And that just kind of gets lost out here for me, just because, I mean, it's not really the style here, I don't think, in general, but then also because of the language barrier. And so, man, I've been FaceTiming a little bit more than normal. I'm like non-FaceTimer normally in my life, but I've been on FaceTime a little bit more, just, you know, talking to this, doing the vlog, this, you know, it's almost like getting a little crazy at times, or it's like I'm becoming my own best friend. But at the same time, I think it's, I don't mean to sound negative at all when I say that, because I think it's necessary for some growth to happen, you know, and it definitely is a little bit uncomfortable for me right now at times. You know, it's all the guys on the team for the most part speak pretty good English, and so when I go and I'm coaching and I'm playing and stuff, like, there's that connection and I'm getting that, but that's only twice a week. And so those other 5 days, like yesterday, you know, I was at the house. I've been watching Last Chance U, and I'm going to get into that. That's the first thing I'm getting into. But I watched a couple episodes of that, and then went and got some food at a restaurant near my crib, which might be my new spot, actually. And I was just like, damn, like, I walked home and I'm realized, like, damn, I didn't say one word out loud to another person today. Like, not, you know, besides, like, can I have this, and point to the menu. And so that kind of tripped me out, and I was kind of, you know, I don't know. I was thinking about that. But like I said, it's what needs to be going on. I truly believe that. And so I'm learning to branch out in other ways and express myself in other ways, and talking to some old friends via FaceTime and just messaging. And so it's a positive, even if at times it can be a little not negative, not lonely, just different, I should say, different. But yeah, I last night at the bar I tried the Pilsner Urquell. And it was funny, the lady who was taking my order spoke zero English. She was very nice, very friendly, very smiley, which I do really appreciate, because half the time I go to these restaurants and the person, I can't even get the one side of their lip to go up. And I'm literally just looking for a reason to tip you really well. But if you can't even fucking smile, then sorry, and you're still getting a tip, but nothing good. And I think that's also like a little bit different, after traveling in Asia at times and other places I've been, even like Poland, where, I know a few words I can order and say thank you and this and that. And normally in some of these other places, and I know my sample size is still small, but in these other places, like when I try, it's met with what I perceive as some appreciation. When I say thank you, when I say dziękuję, when I, dobre den, when I naskledano, like when I say hello, see you later, thank you, whatever, it's normally met with like a little appreciation. The only place it was never met like that of all my travels is in Serbia. But I think it was because in Serbia, most of the people spoke really good English. And so they almost took offense to it. Like, man, fuck you, bro. You can just say it in English, and I understand. But out here, I just haven't really felt like it's been met with much appreciation, which kind of sucks. And for a little day there or two, I was like, man, screw these people. I'm going to just speak English then, because I'm trying to go out of my way to, fit in. But I think it's just from guys on the team, what they tell me is like, dude, that's just how they are, whether you're speaking Czech or not. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a ramble intro. But no, let's and also one last thing to complete the rambling is I also think right now it has a little bit to do with, the energy that's going on. I know I'm fucking hippie, where's the crystal and all that stuff, but with the new moon coming, and there's always some weird energy around with the moon cycles and all of that, and you can choose not to believe in that. That's all good, I think you'll acknowledge that the moon affects the tides, affects the oceans, which are extremely big bodies of water. And so if the gravitational pulls and all of those things from the moon can affect the tides and the bodies of water, it's just hilarious to me that people don't think that they can affect us, because if we're like 75 or 78% made of water. So I don't know where the idea is that just because it can affect the oceans, it can't affect us. Someone probably said that was crazy when you were like 15, and then you've just like, yep, it's crazy. No more thought necessary. I just, it's something I've been thinking about that, like, yeah. And so I think that has something to do with it. Obviously, the world is in a weird place right now. And I'm really going to get into a couple little things, but I'm slowly, just trying to get away from talking about bullshit, basically. I was talking with my buddy, and who he sends me a lot of stuff regarding, alternative ideas that are happening undercover. And he's like, dude, I need to take a break from this. I need a week break. I was like, man, I hear you. I'm stopping kind of messing with, because it is what it is. You feel me? Like, I'm not going to go arrest anybody. I'm not going to go change anybody's mind too much. I can do this, but this is about as big a platform as I have. And it's just a waste of time and energy and thoughts and words and breath. And so even with me saying that, I'm going to talk about a couple things. But as we start to move forward, I'm going to really just maybe bring it up, but not get so, I wouldn't say I was emotional in it, but just invested in it. And so, yeah, but no, to start where we got to start, finally, we can talk about some fucking football. With, like I mentioned, Last Chance U on Netflix. And I watched the first one a little bit, but it was, in Mississippi or Alabama, wherever it was. And to me, it was relatable, But compared to the Cali JUCO system, it's just completely different because they kind of have scholarships, they have dorms, like it's different. And the Cali JUCO struggle, which people are starting to see, you've heard me before say it, like if you didn't go to Cali JUCO, you have no clue what it was like, of how much of a grind. And people are slowly getting a little window into that. And, obviously anything that's produced for media like that is going to be hypersensitized in a way, but these stories are damn true, man. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about, and watching it has made me just completely reflect and bring back some nostalgia. And I mean, I'm getting chills right now as I talk about it. Like those 2 years or year and a half I was there at Diablo Valley College in the Bay, about 20 minutes away from where Laney College is, which is set for Last Chance U. I mean, looking back now, those were my favorite years my favorite years of college, hands down, like no question. And I mean, it was a struggle. Like it was a fucking grind, and you were on your own besides the teammates. Everyone had each other, and the Laney team, I think I just finished episode 4, so I'm only through that. If you don't want to hear some spoilers, although it's not really spoilers, I would fast forward maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long I'm going to talk, but I'm going to tell some good stories, so fuck that. Just listen, man. But man, those times were great, and I'm hoping, like I said, only through episode 4, and I don't know if Laney had any out of state or out of area guys who are living like in their own apartment. The few stories they've highlighted so far are just local guys, which is really cool. But I hope there's a out of state or out of area guy that they cover eventually. Because I mean, just selfishly, I want to see that from that side, and because that was, even though these guys who were in local guys, like they have a struggle, that out of state, out of area guy struggle was even crazier, having to find an apartment. And I mean, shit, dude, I was 18, signed a lease. Obviously my parents helped me co-sign it, moved into a empty apartment with nothing. Like the first time in my life, like I had to buy sponges and paper towels and cleaning supplies and plates, like literally everything. And we were really fortunate. One of the local guys, Andrew Willis, my guy, I mean, we talked on Facebook maybe 2-3 weeks ago. It was his birthday, or maybe a month or 2 ago. And his family was just getting rid of some of their couches from their house. And so he had a truck and he brought those over. So those were our couches. We ended up finding my favorite recliner, favorite chair I've ever had. I found it in the trash. We lived in like a month-to-month apartment complex rental place. So people are always moving in and out. So there was always stuff like right by the garbage. And so like you come home some days and like, oh, yo, there's a couch. Oh, there's this. Like, yeah, I had a couch in my room that was an IKEA couch that was from the dumpster, the recliner, different shelves, our coffee table. One of the coaches gave us like an old ass TV for us. And I think the only thing we actually bought for the house furniture wise was a TV stand for it. I think so. Had my homie Big E bootlegging all the Xbox games. He had his Xbox completely, what's it called? Like tricked out so it could play like bootlegged games and stuff. So, and then at that time, Xbox Live always gave you free month trials. And so we just every month would switch and use a new username. So, I mean, just like hustling the system. But, dude, like watching those things, man, it's been so fun. And like the first thing in a story that I always kind of mention from JUCO, and it happened literally the first episode of this series, was those kickoffs in junior college are the scariest things I've ever seen from any level. D1, I mean, NFL, like, because as you've seen, if you're watching it, you know, there are some dudes who are angry and have a lot to prove and nothing to lose that are running down 110% and putting their body on the line. And that first kickoff where a dude runs down and smacks him, I mean, I literally was like, oh shit. I mean, and that was my dad. So, sorry, this isn't going to be super well thought out. I don't have it written out, but my time at DVC, my first year there, I gray shirted. And so what that means is you're not a full-time student, and therefore your eligibility clock doesn't start. At Cali JUCO, like, taking football can be a class, so you can get credits for it, and that allows you to still practice while not, like, normally, like, if you gray shirt at a university, you're not eligible to practice. But at JUCO, like, maybe that wasn't the real rule. I don't really know. But I was practicing that first year, learning the offense, running the scout team. And, I mean, that wasn't the initial plan. I was so sad and so butthurt. Like, that day, the coaches brought me in the office and told me that. And, like, they wanted me to redshirt in case the other guy got hurt. But I was like, no, sorry. Like, I got to do what's best for me. And, I mean, I was pissed, to be honest. Like, I was so pissed. Like, I went and I was thinking about transferring. I drove down to Fresno City College, checked them out, had a quick little visit during the winter, or like one of our bye weeks or something like that. And because I was pissed. And but ultimately I did stick it out, and that was the best decision of my life, because I mean, Coach Byrne, my OC, was the best. Like, hands down the best, at not only from an X's and O's standpoint, like, he's the reason why I'm so knowledgeable and able to transfer my knowledge to other people now, and have continued to do that throughout my life. You know, from the coaching side, he was such a damn good coach, and like so straightforward and not a big yeller or anything, but just like, this is what I expect, and this is what you need to do, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is this, you know. And I mean, I'm so grateful for him, because I mean, he's the best coach I've ever had. And then Coach Dar, the head coach, man, I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Coach Beam on the show, although just with a little less hair. But Coach Dar was the man too. Exactly that same kind of guy, like, you know, father figure in a way to some of these guys, with tough love, and I mean, he really truly cared about the guys, and he wanted them to get out, and he had no real like selfishness in the game about it being about him. And I think Coach Dar is like, man, every year like 20 dudes get schollies from DVC, you know, even in the down years. And so, man, like, those two guys, I know they both won't watch this. I don't think they think very highly of me from my 20-year-old self, which is understandable. But I really appreciate those guys as I look back, and I realize that a lot of my coaching influence was and the language I use and the intensity and the way I am, where I can be tough but then still love you, like, was highly influenced by those guys at DVC. And also my dad. You know, I grew up with my dad as my head coach and coached throughout the years. And I mean, there were many car rides home where we were fucking pissed at each other. But my dad was that same kind of old school guy, where like, if you messed up, you're going to hear about it. And there weren't any excuses. Like, you messed up. But then at the same time, like, he loved you up. And he kept it fucking real and told you the truth no matter what. And so, like, as I look back, like, it's been cool now. Shit, I was in JUCO 10 years ago. 2010 was the year I played. To reflect and see how how I've progressed and how those things have influenced me. And I guess I gotta brag a little bit, because that my 1 year that I did play, 2010, I ended up, and we had a squad, and we didn't have a great running game, but I ended up leading the state and the nation in yards per games and touchdowns. And so, and also interceptions. I got to put that in there too. We were slanging that thing around, and I had dudes at receiver. I mean, we had like 7-8 receivers who could all ball. But my two outside guys, Greg Wilson and Deontay Jackson. Deontay's like the local legend from there, who was a bounce back from Oregon, and great dude. Great dude. We talked maybe a year or so ago, and we had this connection, and then Greg was the other outside guy who, like, the fastest dude I've ever played with as a white. I mean, he was a white guy, but he's the fastest dude I've ever played with. Like, black, white, purple, red, like any color. Like, Greg was fast, and Greg was a worker, like a worker. And so, we play some of these kind of hood teams, and you see the corners come up all clapping on little Greg. And me and Greg just kind of had this, like, we could look at each other like, yeah, it's coming. Whoop, see ya, tutty. And then I had Chase Danska in the slot. So Greg went and played out at Fordham. Chase played at UMass. Chase was a high school quarterback in the wing tee, veer kind of offense, and just a sick athlete. And he had played quarterback the year before at our rival JUCO, and then came over and played receiver with us. And he was like one of my main homies, fucking dirty. And still kind of in contact with him every now and then. And then who our fourth slot, kind of, like I said, we had a bunch of dudes, and it was always a kind of a different guy each week every now and then. But for a while it was my roommate. And that was so fun when, like, he got in the game, because that first year he was playing, but he never really played. And he was he's an Asian dude from Hawaii, super shy. And Big E, I think I told the story already about the Big E nickname. And his name was Justin Odoguru, but not anywhere near Big E. But that, like, he was kind of timid, never really talked. And through, I mean, not just living with me, but being with me and being just around the guys, because my house was like the hangout house. We lived across the street from the school. So even dudes that were local guys that, had to drive 40, 50 minutes away, maybe get a ride in with somebody, they'd come over and just kick it with me before practice or before school or whatever. Like, my favorite instance of that is my dude Donovan Shorter, one of our corners. He lived in Antioch, I think, or Pittsburgh, which is about 35 minutes away. And his only way to get in in the morning was with somebody who had an 8 o'clock class, but he didn't have class till like 10. And so, like, in the beginning, like, it was like first week of school, it's like 7:50 in the morning, and we get a knock at the door. I'm like, who is this? Like, I'm tired. I had set up my class schedule, so I was sleeping in. And I open the door, and it's Dono. I'm like, bro, what's up? He's like, yo, J-Brad, you want to play some Madden? I was like, dude, it's 7:50. He's like, I know, but I don't have class till 10, and is it cool? We play some Madden? And I was like, dude, you can play some Madden. I'm going back to bed. And so next day, same exact shit. Knock, knock, knock. And I'm like kind of pissed, And open the Dono, bro. He's like, yeah, let's play. I'm like, bro, no. I go, hey, listen, I'm gonna leave the door unlocked. You just come in, bro. Like, you can just come in. All right, please don't wake me up. And so Yeah, pretty much like three mornings every week. I wake up, come out of my room, and Donna was sitting there playing Xbox, and that was my guy. And so, no, just like little stories like that where, um, we had a 2-bedroom apartment, technically a 2-bedroom apartment, really like a 1-bedroom, 1 office, but kind of 2 bedrooms. And I had the room, and Big E had the office. And then for most of the entire time, we had one other guy living and paying rent to sleep on the couch. I think it was like $150 or $200 a month for the couch. And at first it was Kevin Moss. Yeah, I talked about this in my episode where I say all the places I've lived and who I've lived with. And so I won't get into it too much. But what I will get into is at a certain point, that reminds me from Last Chance U. At a certain point, there were 3 other out of area guys who had kind of the same setup as us in the same apartment complex. And their lease was up, or they were going to move, or they didn't know if they were coming back or not. And so they had like, I don't know, like a couple weeks where they were all living with us. And so we literally had 6 people sleeping in a 1-bedroom, basically a 2-bedroom, you could call it. And it was me and my buddy Billy Mitchell, who was a Seattle guy also. He slept in the couch in my room. And then Lil Moss slept in the couch outside, and someone slept on like a little air mattress out in that room. And then Big E and someone else had an air mattress in his room. And it was cool for a little while, but just messy as hell. All 3 guys in a small house like that is messy. Now multiply it by 2. And so finally they all knew they were staying. And so they all got their own spot, and I kind of had to end on a little bit of drama because they liked staying there rent free. Fucking Billy and Shane, and who was the third? Billy. Was it C. Mott? Mott? Yeah, I think so. Another Seattle guy. And they were cool because we literally were working out all day, throwing, and then we just come home and smoke blunts. And so like you just pass out, so like that's the one thing I'm wondering if they're going to show in Last Chance U at all. They're not going to for sure. But that out of state, those out of area guys, we had some parties, boy. Camelback, what's up? And then Frankie and Dom and Naeem and Marcus they had a like 4-bedroom spot like a little bit further away from campus, and they'd have parties all the time. And yeah, after that Sierra game, boy, we had some fun, man. Damn, we had a lot of fun, not gonna lie. And but dude, it's funny too. Frankie was a receiver, and he reminds me a lot of RJ from this Last Chance U, where like just physical specimen, can just go and make all these plays. Although Frankie was way bigger than RJ. Frankie was like 6'2", fast, like had all the ability, just like maybe wouldn't fully think about every route and about every play, in regards to the offense. I think similar how RJ is. And, RJ gets a lot of shit from the coach on the show so far, which seems a little unfair at times, I'll admit. But he's been there 2 years now. And so we don't really know what has happened the 2 years before, and so I'm sure there's like the truth lies somewhere in the middle of what we're seeing on the show. And man, let's see. What do I want to... I could literally talk for 5 hours about the JUCO stuff. And so I'm going to try not to. No, I will. But I want to get a few things in that, I saw throughout these first few episodes that like really resonated with me. The kickoff being the first thing. And then it's ironic. My last game in JUCO was at Modesto College, which is their first game in the series. And Modesto smacked us. I think it was for our bowl game. It was like 45-14 or something. But I will say Modesto are kind of bastards because their field at the time was like grass and they didn't cut that shit. So, I mean, it was super long. They were like a power run team, super long. It was wet and we had speed. And so, I mean, that's home field advantage. They get the right to do that. But if we play them on turf, like nobody could hang with us if we played on turf. I think like all the games we lost that year were on grass. Yeah, we lost at De Anza. We lost at Sac City. Sac City was totally, I mean, all the losses were for sure my fault. I threw a bunch of picks those games. Also had the most like ironic, crazy picks that year ever. Like tipped to lineman catching it. I hit a guy in the chest. He batted it down, kicked it to a guy. I mean, all kinds of crazy interceptions. But at times I was Brett Favre and just gunslinging it. And what were our three De Anza, Sac City, and Modesto. Yeah, all three grass games. But my last play of JUCO, I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to show it. And so that game in Modesto was, I mean, that team was good. That Modesto squad was like a tough group. Like they were scrappy, and that defense hit me, man. Like I haven't been hit like that in a game ever. And I mean, they hit me early, and I was for sure concussed like most of that game because I can't find this play, but I like scrambled out and got tackled and like fell down on the ground, and somebody was chasing the play and just kind of like jumped over the pile, to stop his momentum. And like as I was bringing my head up from the ground, like his heel, like I don't think he did it on purpose at all, but his heel just like clipped the back of my head, and you could see it on film where like I was like, and like I got up and I'm like seeing, it's like a rainy kind of game. I'm on the sideline splashing water in my face like it's hot. And then I remember like Coach Byrne was going to take me out. And I literally like was on the sideline in tears. Like, no, you can't take me out. Like, I mean, you can see the emotion in this in junior college football out there it's unlike anywhere else. The emotion is unreal. And I was like, you can't take it. He's like, Joe, you're literally crying on the sideline right now. I was like, dude, this is going to be my last game. Like, give me one more drive. Give me one. Like, I literally had to beg to stay in. And me and G. Will hooked up for a deep post. I remember that. I don't know if he scored on it, but I think he did. Hooked up for that deep post and came back to the sideline. I was like, yo, I'm good. And I was not good, man. And then the hit, my last play, the game's pretty much over. I don't know how this play wasn't unnecessary roughness, roughing the passer, all of that shit, because you'll see it right here. I'm going to watch it. I watch it maybe once a year. And boy, pick six. I don't know how it got picked. I'm literally throwing a quick pass. Oh, it got tipped. That's why. Damn. But how is this not roughing the passer or hit like his crown of his helmet? Like I cut my chin on that play. Like his crown got me right there, and I had this fat cut. And it was another funny story. So my girl at the time was one of the trainers on the team. And so like she knew I was fucked up that whole game. And she was like, okay, like I was like, don't tell. Wendy was the head trainer. I was like, don't let Wendy like talk to me. Like I'm not fucking coming out of the game. And Wendy was super cool too, but like she was a trainer, like she wanted our health, And I was like, yo, I'm not coming out of this game. And so like I literally was like avoiding Wendy on the sideline. Like whenever if she like I was having to look out for her walking around, And oh shit, the other part I meant to bring up in the beginning is the head trainer on the show, Rick Becker, was on the training staff for me at DVC. And so I'd seen him, we still every now and then talk on Facebook throughout the years, and even more so recently because he's a definite thinker. And so that first episode comes on, I'm like, yo, I mean, I knew he was on the show, but then I was like, oh shit, it's Rick. And so that's super cool too, to just, like I said, it feels, in a way, watching that show feels like I'm watching my JUCO career, because we were green, white, and black also, so the uniforms similar. Rick, a guy like RJ that's similar to a guy on our team. And for what it's worth, though, and just to put it out there, my JUCO, we would have fucking ran that Laney team 100%, like no questions asked. And you can watch the film and make the choices yourself, but we would have ran that team. Not saying we would have ran the national championship team the year before, but that team, we smoked them. But dude, like I said, I could literally talk about this all day. Like watching the pregame stuff, like just gives me chills like that. I already said it, but just the emotion of the game was, I've said before, like if you're emotional, you're controllable. And in this instance, it was good because, like, man, I was out there playing at 165 pounds with some grown men who could smack and wanted to smack. And, like, the only way I could have done what I was doing was if I was in just this, like, next kind of state, this elevated state. And, man, it made me realize, I've always said, like, I want to go back and kind of give back and coach in junior college at some point, because it had such an impact on my life and my career. And now after watching this, like 100%, like that'll be, I don't really have a huge desire to coach NCAA football. But JUCO, I don't know how I'll have to grind to make it work, because you don't get really paid if you're a position coach. But I'll get back there for sure. And then it's crazy to see, like, they played West Hills, they played Butte, and both of those teams we played, my gray shirt year, we played Butte, and they had Aaron Rodgers' brother, Jordan Rodgers, who he was a damn good athlete, and they smacked us. They were good. But then West Hills, they don't talk about it in the show at all, but West Hills was like one of the only schools in California that actually does have dorms or has like living situations for guys, because it's in Coalinga, which has like no population. And so they get a lot of out of state guys. Like they get a lot of the guys from the South that don't get picked up by the teams like East Mississippi or anything like that they come out to West Hills. And so that West Hills team has always got dudes on it, like Southern dudes that can ball, but they're never very good coached and never super disciplined, and always just kind of like super individual. And so we smacked them both my years. But yeah, going to Coalinga, they didn't say it on the show either, but it smells like absolute shit in Coalinga because there's like a cattle farm or something close by. And so just like seeing some of these things on the show where like I've been, at Butte, at West Hills, Modesto, like I've seen it. And it was really cool. So I'm trying not to just binge watch all the episodes, so I can kind of take my time and really remember some things. But yeah, man, it's cool. It's really, really, this is for sure the best Last Chance U, in my opinion. And I heard they're going to switch to basketball next year, which is so dumb. Like, you can do both. And the JUCO, like, do another year with Laney or find another JUCO in Cali. Like, to me, that's the best storyline. I'm biased, obviously, but don't stop doing it now. But yeah, let's move on. Although, still talking about some football, which I hope, yeah, maybe this is a good. I hope this is a good switch up from hearing about liberal Democrat, Republican conservative, hypocritical robot bullshit that I normally am talking about. And we're going to get there. Don't even trip on that. But yeah, speaking on some more football this last weekend, the Finnish football league started up. And I'd like to, now they normally have games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. And so I can watch the Thursday, Friday ones, and I can watch the Saturday one on replay too. And, I was supposed to play in Finland 2019, so last year, and ended up leaving right before the season started. And so, yeah, like I said last week, I'm going to get in. I'm going to start talking about the Finnish league because it's one of my favorite leagues due to the imports, and I think the Finnish talent's super good and the guys are super coachable. And so it has the possibility to being some of like the highest quality football in Europe, in my opinion. But like I said, I left the season, or I left the team 2 weeks before the first game, maybe a week before the first game. And man, I was there for, I think, a total of 5 or 6 weeks. And that was one of the craziest little whirlwinds of my life and most like mentally challenging things that I'd been through. And to start, is, to be honest, like from the minute that I arrived, I had a bad feeling, like bad gut feeling in my stomach. And it kind of started with like, we get to the houses and like none of the houses have anything in them. Like the beds aren't ready, nothing's ready. And like, I'm not trying to be a diva here or anything like that, but I just traveled for like 24 hours going through 9-hour time difference, 9-hour, like, 14 hours of flights. And they wanted us like the second we got there to help start moving furniture around to the different apartments because they weren't ready yet. And so I was just like, dude, like I'm in like dream world. I don't even know what's going on. And I'm just like, yo, what did I just get myself into? And like these apartments that we're in, like were the worst apartments I've ever been in from Euro football standards. We don't live any glamorous life. Like I'm not trying to be a diva, like I said, like, but the walls are so thin in this like tiny ass 4-bedroom place with 1 bathroom that, I mean, you were in the conversation no matter where you were in the house. And, I'm a 28, 29-year-old dude living with like 2 20-year-olds and a 20, first time outside of their country and outside of their thing, when I had told the coach beforehand, like, yo, like, I want to live with Mark, who was the other linebacker, and, I don't want to be like in college fraternity dorm room situation. And the coach, who we had talked a ton, I'm not going to name his name because I'm going to talk some shit about it, but you can research it if you want. And those guys who are there know. We talked for like 40 hours probably leading up to Finland, and me getting there talking over the offense, this and that. And I can say 100% like he fooled me to the maximum. He fooled me. And I feel I normally have a pretty good like judge of character and can see through people and kind of see the energy. Homie got me, and I've been got before. It wasn't the first time and it won't be the last. But like I said, we talked for 40 hours probably damn near for the 4 or 5 months leading up to it. And I was convinced like this dude really knows what he's talking about. This guy's a great guy and all of these things. And man, it couldn't have been further from the truth. Although he was a great scouter. Like the guys he brought in were amazing from a playing standpoint and a personality standpoint. All 10, 11 of the imports that were out there were awesome dudes, except one. And so, but it in the beginning, that wasn't even the main concern. It was like from the organizational side of things, like, you know, the beds and the house not even being ready. Like, we didn't get paid for 2 weeks or something before, right when we got there. We all were supposed to have meals at different restaurants, like, set up, like, and so if we didn't have money, it would have been all right because we have the meals, you know, and so, but those weren't ready. And you could just tell nothing had been planned out. And, you know, like, I'm coming in there with like maximum $1,000 to my name. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing this shit to get rich at all. And I'm not expecting some lavish lifestyle. It's just, I expect what's in the contract to be done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do more than what's in the contract. I just, at the very least, I expect what's in it to be ready. You know, we were supposed to have bikes, or the bikes didn't come for like 2 weeks. So literally we're just walking everywhere. We didn't live in the city center at all. And, you know, just everything was kind of a lie, but it really doesn't reflect on the organization, I should say. I mean, obviously some things did, but because overall I thought the organization, the city were great. But the main problem was all the negotiations and talking to was done with the coach rather than the GM. And so there was this miscommunication between what was expected and what was told and promised and all those things. And so, you know, when and the team had some bad imports in the past, like bad dudes that I guess like had sold the bikes to pawn shop or something, you know, like that. And so we kind of came in like viewed almost like criminals as the imports. And, you know, my two teams I'd been at before in Portugal and Poland, by no means was everything perfect, but like I was so happy and lucky to be a part of those places because they did things the right way, or they really tried to do things the right way. You know, Portugal, I was the first import out there. And so, you know, there were some times where we had some miscommunications, but it was understandable. And once we talked, we got it right. Had to kind of put my foot in the ground a couple times, but it was all a mutual thing. And Poland out there, Maciej, you know, I mean, dude, best GM I've ever been around, 100%. I've told him that on, you know, me and him are still friends to this day. Hopefully we end up in Asia together at some point. He's the reason. When I went to Thailand, I just asked him, yo, what am I doing? And he gave me a little itinerary. And, dude, you could be a travel agent now that I think about it, bro. And, but yeah, and so I had those kind of like expectations that things are going to be right. And it was the furthest thing from that. You know, we were getting the bike locks and key. Half of them have flat tires. And we didn't have our own. We only had one key per apartment for 4 guys in the first like 2 weeks. So you had to, you know, all travel together. And I'm a super independent guy. Like, I want to go do my own thing. And then finally, when we got our keys, like we were told like, okay, you need to take a picture with your key so we have evidence that it's yours. And if you lose it, then you have to pay us. And I was just like, yo, like, I'm not fucking taking a picture with this key. Like, I'm a grown man. Like, what, you're treating me like a criminal. And I hashed this all out. Me and the GM, we talked about it. Me and him are on good terms. But like, it was coming, and I get it too, because the guys before us had fucked them over. But I told him, I was like, yo, they have nothing to do with me. You know, you can check my profile. I got references listed from the last 10 years of my life, from every team, where I've worked, everything. Like, you could have done your research on me. I'm a good guy, and I do things the right way. And me to get treated like this is not cool. And so, you know, it was just, like I said, a weird situation from the start organizationally. And then what happened, man? Like, dude, it was wild. Like, we weren't really playing very good as a team, as an offense especially. We had 2 of our imports on defense, and the one of them got hurt like first practice because he was just out of shape. Like, you could tell he hadn't been doing nothing. and he milked that for like 2 weeks or something. And, I'd been told also that, like, when I got signed, like, we were going to sign an American running back. And so, like, in my opinion, I took a pay cut because, okay, I got a dude I can hand it off to 20, 25 times a game. Like, that's going to make my job easier. And now I'm the only American on the offense. We had some dudes, but it was all like first year import young guys who needed some coaching and weren't ready to be the guy. And at least not that moment. And on top of that, they weren't getting any coaching from the so-called best coach in the world, the self-referenced best coach in the world, who would name drop every NFL guy he's ever talked to in his life. It's a fucking joke. It's like, but couldn't explain anything. And also, I mean, he could explain it, but just in such a complex way. We had a Hungarian tight end who was a dude, like Hungarian Gronk, just didn't speak English very well. And so, like, if you told him, yo, do this or do that, run it like this and show him, he'd do it and ball out on it. But he's trying, okay, well, if it's a 7-eye technique and he shifts out to the wide 9 and then he crashes, you're going to need to flip your hips and then pirouette and keep your one eye looking out here. And it's like, dude, he doesn't even know what you're saying. And so offensively, we didn't talk about pass protection one time. And so we literally had a free rusher like damn near every play when they're rushing 4 guys. And so, I mean, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And so, like I said, in the beginning, it was from like the organization things I wasn't too excited about. And I was really like mad at the GM, to be honest. And once me and him, we had a long conversation, and I was planning on leaving. This would have been like 3 weeks in, because I didn't like how we were being talked to, treated, none of that. And so I told, like, I got in his car, we went for a little drive, and I mean, we had a true heart to heart, and like, he's a good dude, like, and I got nothing but good things to say. We got a good relationship. And I told him, like, I'll be honest, man, when I got in this car, I was 99% sure I was going to tell you I'm out. Get my ticket out of here. Because at this time, nothing from the contract has been honored. And he's like, oh, shit. And I mean, and I was a good lead. Like, he said on the podcast, the Finnish podcast, that like he'd never been around a leader like me before. I mean, like, this is my life, man. This is what I do. So I take it real seriously. You feel me? And so we ended up, I kind of was like, well, we got to renegotiate then. Because like I said, I signed this thing under the premise we were going to have a running back. Like, I got to do everything here. I got to help coach. I got to do everything. And I hated having to rely on other guys for rides and stuff. And so we renegotiated a couple things, and one of those being I get a scooter or some kind of transportation. And I ended up getting a Renault Twizy, which, if you know what those are, that shit was dope. That was the funnest part of Finland. It's the little like 1.5-seater electric car with the Lambo doors. And it was like the only one in town. And so literally, like, I'd drive by and everyone would be like, oh, whoa, look at that. And so, I mean, that was cool. But then other guys on the other imports were like for sure jealous of that shit. But at the same time, it was all, sorry, bro, like, I negotiated, step your game up. And, throughout these talks with the GM, he was constantly, asking, and he had his doubts with the coach himself and one of the other American imports. And, and like I said, we developed a great relationship and honest, to a degree. And I told him, I said, I think we could do better in different ways, like in the beginning, I was just politically correct. It was like, yeah, I think for the third import, like if we had a playmaker, whether it be on offense or defense, or a guy who could do both, like it's going to be better for the team. And I had one of my homies ready to come. Mark, he had one of his homies ready to come who would have been a difference maker. And, in this other import, he was just not a like good teammate either. Like never talked to nobody, wasn't trying to be a part of the culture. And for me, like if you're going to come out and do the American football in Europe thing and you're getting paid while all the other guys are working and, in a way kind of supporting you, like you got to bring something more to the table than just being a baller. It's not just straight professional. Like you got to, like I try and leave the team with something. And so that way they're better off when I got there, so, and this guy just wasn't doing that. I mean, he was a cancer, if anything. So what happened? So yeah, it kind of went on like that. It was rocky. Like people were kind of mad at each other constantly all the time. There was some drama going on. And then it finally got to the point. What happened? Oh yeah, I was still making it work, but I was mad. Like going to football sucked. Like because I just knew I was going to get killed from protection wise. Didn't really have a guy who could really make a play throwing the ball to consistently. And so I'll admit, like there was like a fear factor of like, yo, we go 3-8 or whatever. And I might not get another deal after this, and on top of that, I'm low key miserable where I'm living. I loved the city. I loved the people of the city. I had a little cafe I went to, which I loved the people there and, other spots in the city, but that's only like 20% of my time. The other 80% of my time, I was struggling, like dark. I was in a dark spot mentally. And so anyway, I'm trying to make it work, and I'm at the gym one day. The GM has me come out to his car so he can pays me. I go to walk back into the gym. He's like, hey, come back. I come back, and he's like, so what do you think? Can we make this thing work with the coach and the other import? And he asked me. So I told him my opinion, truthfully. And I said, coach, I said just what I said. The for the other import, like for what we're paying and that kind of stuff, like we can get someone who can impact the game way more and impact the culture way more. And I think you know that and agree with that. And then I said, from the coach, like I think we can make it work, but it's going to be an uphill battle. And I go, I probably shouldn't say this. I shouldn't have. But I literally told her, I probably shouldn't say this, but I've been thinking of a crazy idea. And I said, if we got rid of, or those two, I can take over the offense. This other guy involved with the team can take over the defense because he was going to coach, but as soon as he was coaching with this other guy, he quit after like the first day. And that should have been a sign for me. And that dude's a real motherfucker. I said, we get rid of those two. I can take over the offense. Other guy can take over the defense. And then we have some money and some rooms and some meals to go get 2 or 3 like dudes who can help us on the field. And like I said, I thought me and this dude had a pretty good, straightforward relationship. And he said, okay, yeah, I hear you. And so I leave, going back into the gym, finish my workout. We have an import meeting called the next day. And I'm thinking like, okay, finally, like something's happening. Like, let's go. And so I'm riding into it and I'm thinking to myself, all right, like somebody's going home. And I'm excited about it. And so, because also at this point, like I knew the coach was just not a very good dude. Like it was all just super phony, like recruiting salesman-y niceness. Because the reason I realized it, and might sound funny, but we were at Subway one time getting food, and like he's ordering something, and the girl like didn't fully understand what he said about what bread he wanted or something, and she was like, "Oh, you want this one?" And I don't think her English was great, maybe either. And he was like, "Yeah, that's what I said." Just like completely unprovoked. And I know that's like a little teeny example, but I was like, whoa. Okay. Uh-huh. And there were other little things throughout, And so anyway, we show up to this import meeting. There's like 10 of us there. And like all the Euro dudes had no clue what was going on behind the scenes with this kind of semi-drama. And so GM starts talking, and I realize it's slowly turning into like a can't we all just get along kind of thing. And at one point he said that. And I'm like, oh man, dude, really? Like that's how we're going with this right now? And oh, mind you, that we had the weekend before, which is our weekend before the first practice game. We were supposed to have 3 practices, like Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. The head coach had canceled practices those weeks, or that weekend, because we needed a break because camp had been really tough and this and that. Camp hadn't been tough at all. We hadn't done one full contract drill. Come to find out, homie was on vacation, left the country with his girl that had came into town and was gone for the weekend. And that was why the practices were canceled. And so anyway, and then, he had told me, this is on like a Thursday, and we were going to have a practice game on Saturday. And we're having this meeting. We had practice later in the day. And he had told me earlier that day, don't come to practice. We're only doing special teams today. After we had only had one practice in the last week and a half. And the last one on offense was shit. And so I'm like, well, I'm still going to come and throw, like I know something's up at this point. And so anyway, we get in this meeting and it's like, oh, can't we all get along? Like, aren't we going to just, and he shows up, coach shows up to the meeting, and he's normally like, hey brother, what's up, dude? How you doing? Like super, now I look back like super phony, like, hey, and dude didn't even look at me as he walks in. And I'm like, oh. And I'm thinking, good, because he's about to get sent home. And so GM basically says, can't we all just get along? Blah, blah, blah. And, I got no problem saying whatever. And so I raise my hand and I go, I was told not to come to practice today. And I look at him, because he hadn't even looked at me the whole time. I go, I was told I'm not to come to practice today. So I don't know how that makes any sense. And I forget, I don't know if it was right then or exactly how it went, but maybe one other thing got said, and dude, the coach blew up. You fucking piece of blah. You're impossible to work with. Blah, blah, blah. It always has to be your way, and da. You're trying to undermine your employer and get me out of here. Bringing it up to the coach out or not, just randomly. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, like if, veins popping out of his head, like if it was a cartoon, like he'd literally be like spitting venom. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, whoa. Because the way he brought it up made it seem like, obviously the GM had told him what I said, but the way he was saying it was that the GM, that I went to the GM with this idea, which wasn't true at all. I was going back into the gym just to lift, and the GM called me back and said, what do you think? And I gave him my truthful response. And so I explained that. I said, oh, here's what happened. I explained that. As soon as I explained that, he looks at you. So what's the real story? And I was like, oh, yeah. And something else went on, and I was like, I said some other shit. Like, I've never been on a team where, like, the weekend before, 3 practices the week before our first practice game get canceled so the coach can go on a vacation with his girl. And he didn't like that very much. You don't know shit. And I really did know shit because he'd asked one of the guys, my best friend on the team, what he should go do in the country that he was going to. So I knew for a fucking fact. And I don't like talking unless I know things for certain. And will openly admit things if I don't know them. I go, oh, okay. You don't know shit. He's like, when I was in the CFL coaching, and he was never a coach in he was a scout. He's like, when I was we took weeks off and even still won the Grey Cup. And I was like, oh. I said, well, I'm sorry, man. I guess I'm just not, I'll never be as good as you and be in the CFL. Like, yeah, you won't. I was like, oh, okay. And it ultimately came around where he said, well, I'm done coaching off. You can have it. You take over. You can do it. And going back a little bit, like when I signed, I told him, like, bro, I've been OC the last 4 years with some pretty good success. Been in the championship 3 out of the 4 years, 2 championships. I said, like, I need input. You know, oh yeah, for sure. Send me your favorite plays for 3rd down, 5, 10 plays or whatever out of empty, this and that. I sent him all those things. Not once did it get put in the opening 20 installs he tried to install. And so he finally messaged me like a week before we went to Finland. I was like, so is there anything in the playbook that you would like to see that you think you do really well that we don't have? I go, yeah, bro. Literally every play I told you about there's not one of them in there. Oh, I didn't know you wanted the exact play in. I was like, then why the fuck did you ask? And so that I'm just giving some context about why he gave me the, like, it has to be your way kind of thing. And so, you know, but anyway, he said, oh, you can be OC. I'll just be the head coach and like manage things from afar or whatever. And like, that's honestly what I wanted, was to be the OC there, because that squad had so much potential if we just simplified things and just did things the right way and coached guys up. But I didn't want it to be on his terms like that, where essentially he'd get all the credit, and then if we failed, he could just blame it on me, you know? And like I said, I could see through this dude at this point, and I really didn't want nothing to do with him. And so I was like, And Mark, my roommate's like, yo, dude, that's what you want. Let's do that. I was like, bro, no. And like I said, from the minute I got there, I'd had a bad gut feeling. Like, it was one huge positive. I mean, I look back at the whole experience as a positive thing. But to really just trust that gut feeling, where, like, I mean, I would wake up, I'd go to sleep with this feeling up here that I can't explain it besides it being a gut instinct. And that moment we were in that meeting, it just came back. And I was like, oh. And I'd already thought about leaving a couple other times, you know, and kind of gone back on my word. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm definitely not supposed to be here. And so I said, listen, man, this isn't what I signed up for at all. Like, I'm done. Like, so, GM, like, when do you want me out of the apartment? And this coach, this motherfucker went from mean to, oh, well, back to the manipulative, recruiting, phony salesman bullshit. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. I got a little emotional, and I tend to say some things that I don't really mean, and that's not what I was trying to say at all. And tried to back, and I said, no, I'm done. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. I'm sorry. And I felt like a huge responsibility because I'd really kind of helped recruit some of the Euro dudes out there. And, and so in leaving them, I felt like a responsibility that like really kind of fucked with me for a bit. And we kind of had a little like circle Like, guys went by one, kind of trying to convince me out of it. And at this point, like, I was done. There was no convincing. And so I was out. I said, listen, guys, like, I love y'all, but like, I'm struggling hard mentally here with everything going on, and I need to get out of here, you know. And I'm mad at myself now because I really put it on like my mental for why I needed to leave rather than putting it on the coach, because I didn't want to fuck up the team, to be honest. I was thinking about them when I said it. You know, I know it's kind of backwards to say, well, you're leaving and being selfish, but thinking about the team at the same time. But that's what my thought process was. And so, but I knew that he was full of shit. But I didn't openly say that. And so then, yeah, I finally was like, yo, and you know, there was some tears. I'm crying a little bit. One of my other roommates, Rico, crying. Like, you know, we developed a good little relationship, and, you know, there were some tough things that had to be said, but walked away. And dude, as soon as that meeting was over, that feeling gone. Completely vanished. Completely vanished. And then ironically, literally the second I stepped back in the door of my house, Bart, the GM and head coach of the team I was just playing for in Spain, messaged me saying, hey, congrats on Finland. I know I'm late, but that... And I was like, well, that's ironic, bro. I'm actually just leaving. He goes, oh, because of the coach, right? And I was like, yeah, how'd you know? He's like, oh, he was in Italy when I was in Italy, and literally everybody hates him there. And so I knew that was going to be interesting for you. And I was like, damn, bro, you couldn't have said something? I wouldn't have listened anyway, though, to be honest. Like, I was trusting my instinct. Like I said, I got fooled, and it happens. And ultimately, because of that, I ended up going to Barcelona. Like, everything all totally worked out how it should have. You know, it is as it should be, and the timing is always right. Because I ended up traveling around a little bit after that, going to Barcelona, figuring out my deal there. You know, obviously Barcelona didn't go exactly how I wanted it with COVID and that kind of thing happening. But then because of that and staying there, it's ultimately got me this job and allowed me to be here. And so, man, it's a blessing. And so, dude, that's a long story, I know. But I've been wanting to tell it because to finish it is, and I'm going to post this video too. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it fast enough right now. But the first game, the first interview at the first game, they talked to the coach and asked, you know, what happened with Joey, and you brought in this other guy, and you know, what was going on? And I mean, this dude just, I mean, not only attacked me as a player, although I was playing my best football I've ever played in my life, like hands down. But it really attacked me as a person. And that's what, like, it was so hard to hold my tongue over this year basically. But now it's like, why I have no problem speaking on it. And even so, I feel I'm being nice, not putting his name in it. You know, if you want to learn and figure it out, you easily can go figure that out. And basically, here's the interview.
So how different is DeAndre compared to his predecessor, Joey Bradley?
Yeah, I mean, entirely different player in person. So, you know, we saw an opportunity to upgrade in terms of character, in terms of leadership, in terms of a genuine care for his teammates, obviously a totally different tier of athlete, an actual true pro. So we were able to upgrade in every way possible. Short term, obviously, makes it a little bit difficult, but long term, we got a superior person and player.
And so, yeah, man, as you can see, that was, I mean, he had balls, in my opinion, to say that shit and then not expect me to say nothing back. And pretty much all the other dudes on the team were pissed at me. It was cool to see, like, who liked me for me and who just wanted me as a football guy. while I was there. You know, I ended up hanging out with a couple of the Finnish dudes more in my last week or two that I was there than I did in the first 5 or 6 weeks, because just time was ending. And, you know, those guys I still, you know, talk to occasionally, and but it was super funny, like, because all the imports were pissed at me, and rightfully so. I would have been mad at myself too if I was in their shoes. But slowly, one by one, as the season went on, I'd one by one get a message. Hey man, coach is crazy. You were fucking right, dude. And I think of the 11 original imports, 6 of them ended up leaving because of what was going on with the coach. And then ultimately, at the end of the season, when it was too late, they fired him. And I found out at the very, very end, like, he wasn't even planning on staying the whole season. He had some, like, NFL training camp thing that he probably had to pay to get into, that he was going to just leave the team for, like, the last week of the regular season. And so by the end of the year, it's just crazy. You know, my prediction was 100% true. By the end of the year, the new quarterback that they had gotten was calling the plays and kind of being the OC. The guy who quit the first day because of the coach was now the DC. They had gotten a playmaker at receiver and safety, and they were balling. And they ended up missing the playoffs just because it was too late, too little, too late. And so I knew like I was getting the inside scoop from guys that were there. And so when I heard they were going to finally fire the coach, I couldn't help myself. And I messaged the GM and I said, my idea doesn't sound so crazy now, does it? Because, I mean, exactly what I predicted happened, just with different people in the places. And so, yeah, man, that's what went on out there. But I want to keep talking about Finnish. I want to, this sounds funny, but like my main goal, I want to get back to Finland to play and coach. You know, anywhere the rest of my career, I don't want to just be quarterback. I want to be QB OC. I'd love to be QB head coach somewhere. I think through my experiences now, like, and the guy that I'm becoming, like, I can help build something that'll last for longer than when I'm just there. And that's really what I want to do and really affect the game, not just when I'm there. And so Finland to me, and at this point now, through playing for 5-6 years in a bunch of different countries, I got homies from every team that can ball, that would love to, you know, link up, and I'm trying to create a super team. And so that's my main goal kind of moving forward with that, is like I want, and I just have a huge chip on my shoulder to play in Finland because I never got to play there. And to me, it's one of the top, you know, it is one of the top leagues. And so just from a competitive nature of wanting to do that, but then also because of how it ended, I want to fucking prove myself, you know. I don't care about proving it to anybody else. It's just proving it to myself, you know, and I'd like that pressure on me. And so any of those Finnish teams out there, and I'm going to start talking about them right now. If you want somebody who can do some things right and can wear a bunch of hats, man, I'll take a good deal to prove myself. Straight up. I'll do the Tom Brady deal, especially if it means we get some other dudes in there. And yeah, but the Finnish season started this last weekend, and there were, you know, games Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the first game on Thursday I watched between the Wolverines and the Crocodiles. And honestly, that was some of the worst offense I've ever seen with some of the best players that I've ever seen, if that makes sense. You know, there was no cohesion between the offenses. I couldn't figure out what the plan was for anybody, really. To me, both QBs didn't really look like they knew what they were reading. And I know they had a short amount of practice. time leading up to it, and so I get it. But like I said, there were some dudes on the field, and for the offense to look like that was kind of sad, And I get it; it's the first game, and normally the defense is always better than the offense in the beginning of the season. But yeah, that was interesting, and so all the plays were either like QB scrambles or just like hucking up a vert to the outside and hoping the guy comes down with it. And I didn't get to see every single play, but I watched pretty much the whole game. And that's what I took from that. And so both of those teams, I think have the ability to compete and be serious, but need to get on the same page X's and O's wise, in my opinion. And the Crocodiles have, I get it's a tough situation right now, and they're playing a guy who played receiver for him last year, who's a baller at receiver, and he's playing quarterback now, and he's number 88. And I kind of jokingly said, like, anytime you got a number 88 playing quarterback, like, there's no disrespect to you, bro, but like, it's just not. It's gonna be tough to win good against good teams, and but the Crocodiles have a dude at receiver who is, he's been killing GFL the last couple years, and they didn't throw him the rock until like the last quarter, and he scored a touchdown or two, for sure one on just a long, just went up, mossed a guy, broke his tackle, and then scored. And it's like, dude, just throw it. Like, if that's, and they also have a beast American running back. It just didn't feel like there was any strategy to get those two guys involved. But I'm not in the meetings. I'm not in the huddles, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. That's just what I've seen from my own perspective. But then the second game of the week on Friday, the Steelers versus the Roosters, which is a rematch of the championship from last year. That was some of the best football I've seen in Europe ever. The Roosters got out to a big lead, like 14-0, and the Roosters play all Finnish players, Finnish quarterback. I think they have like one Euro O lineman on the team, but other than that, it's all Finnish guys. It's basically the Finnish national team almost. And they're ballers, dude. You can tell they're well coached. They know what they're doing. They got out to a big lead, and it appeared a little bit like they kind of started to coast, like, oh yeah, we got this, And then one of the receivers, I forget what number he had. He had a tough game. He had 3, 4, 5 drops in like crucial situations, 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think he fumbled it maybe one time. And it's a team game, but with a couple of those plays, it's different. But it was back and forth, give and take on both sides. The Steelers kind of took a little while to get going offensively, but then once they found those run plays that were working for the RB, like, he's a beast and fast. And he kind of started to take over. And then when they needed to make a play throwing the ball, Seth Peters, a QB, who he's one of my favorite dudes to watch in Europe, like, he made the plays, and the receivers made the plays, and you could tell there was a plan. There was a definite game plan for both offenses. And compared to the Thursday game, I felt like there was a definite non-plan for both offenses. And so that game was so fun to watch, and the Steelers ended up winning, which the Roosters haven't lost. I don't know what the stats are really, but they haven't lost much in the last like 5 or 6 years. I know that. And so that's cool. That's good for the league. Anytime the team who always wins finally loses one, because it kind of gives everybody else some hope. And then it renews the hunger for the Roosters. So that was a fun one to watch. And then on Saturday was my ex team, the Royals versus the Butchers. And Butchers got out to like 14-0 lead, same thing. And it looked a little bit like, I don't know if they coasted or almost kind of like they were just trying to get too cute with stuff. They got a QB, Jabari, who can run. He's one of the better athletes I've seen out here. Can literally play everything, but is a quarterback, but that can also play everything. Not a guy who plays everything and quarterback. and just seemed like they were trying to get a little too cute. The Royals couldn't complete a pass. Their run game was nice, but I think their QB only had 2 completions the whole game, 3 completions maybe. And I mean, so in the beginning it was tough to watch, but then the dude can run. He's a big physical guy, and I just don't get it. I mean, they got Alpha and Peterson at receiver, and you can't complete them a pass. And I'm obviously a little like biased or whatever, because man, give me those dudes and we'll have a fun offense, that's for sure. And but they ended up making the plays when they need to. That Royals team has got some youth talent that is fucking good, and just made a couple mistakes early. They had that fumbled punt, but then Alpha made up for it with the 92-yard punt return at the end. I think the quarterback finished with 4 rushing touchdowns, 1 or 2 picks, 2 or 3. He had more rushing touchdowns than completions, I think. I didn't see the stat line, but I think once they get on the right page and figure out what they do right and figure out ways to get their dudes the ball, because I mean the Royals have 2 running backs, Finnish guys that are sick. Tom is the most underrated player in Europe. You look at him and think he works at the docks in New York, smoking cigs on his breaks. But Tom is a baller. And then Nico, a young guy who I had the pleasure of kind of coaching and while I was there a little bit, who has all the potential in the world and can catch, can run, can juke. He's big. He's getting in the weight room. And so watching those dudes, if once they all kind of get on the same page, and the Royals got a good O-line too and good defense, I think the Royals can make some noise for sure. And so, yeah, man, that's how I saw those games. I'm going to, I don't know if anybody's going to care about what I say for that, but at the same time, I want to talk about it. And if you listen, you listen. If you don't, you don't. And, yeah. But I think, let's see, that's all from football. That was literally an hour and a half of football. One more thing from football now, I guess. Very last thing to wrap up part 1 is the NFL Top 100 came out last week, and Lamar Jackson was number 1. And, that's been on Twitter discussions here and there, this and that. And I don't agree he's the number 1 player in the NFL. Mahomes to me is for sure, or even Russell Wilson, just from a complete standpoint, or even Aaron Donald. But the thing is, the reason I understand why Lamar Jackson got number 1. And if I was going to pay to watch one game in the NFL live, one game I just had the money for, I would want to go and watch him because he's electric and he's completely different than anybody else in the league. And so I get it from that side. But the real reason why he got number 1, in my opinion, is it's voted on by the players, right? And Lamar Jackson this last year made some people look stupid. I mean, some professional defensive players who get paid millions of dollars, who aren't used to looking bad, and he made them look foolish at times. And so, to me, I think that a lot of guys voted him as number 1 because of what he did to them and how he made them look. Because I know people don't realize this, but guys in the NFL are just human beings like you and me. They're just normal guys. And most of are young, they're normal. They deal with all the problems we deal with, from insecurities to family issues, from everything. But the insecurity thing is extremely heightened almost because they're constantly in the spotlight. and they're constantly being judged and compared. You know, it's the same way I've noticed like models tend to be incredibly insecure a lot of the time because they're constantly being compared and judged to the other best looking people in the world. And so it goes the same thing for NFL players where they're the best of the best. And so when you're constantly being compared like that, it's sometimes hard to not be insecure. And they're just like us. And so I think a lot of guys voted him as number one. So he came out as the number one guy. So in a way, it makes them feel better about getting clowned by him. Because then it's like, well, he's the best player in the league. Number one voted. You know, it kind of builds in this excuse. And I'm not saying everybody who voted him number one is that reason, but that's just a take of something that I know from having the opportunity to be around some dudes that have been playing at a high level and things I've picked up on. And obviously it's not everybody, but that's just something and that I was thinking about. And so, yeah, let's wrap that one up now, huh? That was a good one. So yeah, that's a sports episode today. Football is back. That's what we're going to call this one, I think. Yeah. But again, as always, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go into a part 2 next. I'm going to break them up on YouTube. Part 2, we're going to talk about all the stuff I said I wasn't going to talk about in the beginning about liberals and conservatives and how they're hypocritical and censorship going on in big tech and the Epstein documents that came out. And yeah, we'll get into that in part 2. So if you want to check that out, click right there or just find it, please. And as always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope to see you at part 2. Hope to see you on episode 10 or 25 or 30, wherever it is. I hope to see you again. I appreciate you. I love you, no matter who you are. And yeah, thanks again. Peace and much love.
Tell me, baby.
Yeah.
What's that story? I've been thinking about you lately.
Yeah, come on.
Tell me, darling. What else? You're a star girl.
What else?
How the fuck do you not know the deal?
What else?
I've been thinking about you lately. And
What else?
it's got me going crazy.
What else?
I'm playing for you, baby.
What else?
Listen up. Got me thinking about you, baby. And it's happening all the time. So I'm playing for you, darling. Now listen up.
Listen up.